Welcome to Off the Page with Melissa K. I'm your host, Melissa K. Anderson. I'm an actor and I'm a mom, and welcome to my podcast, in which I will do my best to bring you an intimate and engaging interview with some of the artists I'm blessed to know. We'll talk shop about their artistic journeys, including but not limited to their process, their inspirations, and their visions for the future. My first guest for my very first episode is my dear friend, Nijla Mu'min. Nijla is an award-winning writer and filmmaker from the East Bay area. Her work is informed by poetry, photography, fiction, and dance. She was named one of 25 new faces of independent film by Filmmaker magazine in 2017. And she tells stories about Black girls and women who find themselves between worlds and identities. Nijla is a dual degree graduate of Cal Arts MFA Film Directing and Writing program. She was also the recipient of the Princess Grace Foundation Cary Grant Film Award for her graduate thesis film, Deluge. She is the writer and director of several short films that have screened at film festivals all over the country, including, but not limited to, the Pan-African Film Festival, Outfest, Frameline, Newfest, BAM Cinematheque, and the Black Star Film Festival, just to name a few highlights of her many accomplishments. I had the pleasure of speaking with Nijla right before her first feature film, Jinn, which she wrote and directed, premiered at the South by Southwest Film Festival this past March. The film stars Zoe Renee from BET's The Quad and Luke Cage's Simone Missick. Since she and I spoke, the film has been well received by audiences and critics alike, and she was also awarded a special jury recognition for a narrative feature competition for writing. But as our interview shows, Nijla is no overnight success. Hard work and an unrelenting drive to tell stories has brought this talented young woman to her current seat at the table. Please join me as I speak with Nijla about the people, places, and things that inform her work. This is Nijla Mu'min, Off the Page. That's recording. I'm so nervous. Okay. Okay, so Nijla, hello. Welcome to whatever this podcast will be determined in terms of the title. One of the first things I think that's cool and we really wanted to talk with you is how we met. And initially, we met when you were still a graduate student at Cal Arts here in Southern California. And you were working on a short film for one of your classes, Two Bodies. And I believe that was back in 2011, right?
Yes, it was.
And I know that you had worked as a production assistant on Ava DuVernay's Middle of Nowhere. Was that prior to shooting Two Bodies? And us meeting?
What's that? I'm trying to think. I think that was, no, that was after. That was after I shot Two Bodies, the short film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe just like a few months after.
Yeah, it was the summer. Yeah, I had shot Two Bodies, I think, that spring, I believe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And then through that, I mean, and as my listeners will come to know, I'm still the LA Maverick captain for the Mavericks, which is Array's kind of volunteer arm of the organization. And I really came to that through you because since you had worked on the film as a PA, you were invited to the screening of Middle of Nowhere at the Los Angeles Film Festival that maybe that next summer. I can't really keep the years straight either when I look back. And that was when I first saw the film and kind of heard about Ava and the organization, and I thought, I want to be a part of that. So I always thought that was a key kind of cool connection. And I believe one of your producing partners, Avril, did you meet her at an Array meetup, or did you know her prior?
Yeah, I met her at a meetup that you invited me to at the cafe in, I think it was Hollywood or something, one of those cafes.
Yeah, it might have been Cafe de Sol. Okay, that's what I thought.
That's where I met her, and then we just started, working together. She shot like a little short little poem video that I did, and then I helped her on her film shoot, and then she was a production manager on my short film called Dream. And so we just started a partnership based on meeting each other in the Array meetup group. And so, it's really awesome how connected everyone is, and just how, Ava starting that organization and, having that space just helped me to meet Avril. And then also helped me to, invite you to become, a part of their organization. So
I completely agree. And when I was kind of looking back, I thought that is so cool. And initially, when I wanted to speak with you, of course, I want to just talk to you because our friendship has grown over the years. And I also really wanted to kind of highlight that Array connection, because one of the things through the volunteers, everyone here in LA usually is aspiring, actor, director, writer, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And I'm always emphasizing to the volunteers that you will get out of the organization what you put in. Definitely. And it's never like, oh, can I meet Ava? What is Ava going to do for me?
Yeah.
The strength really is the connections that you can make with the other people in the group who are aspiring as well, and the collaborations, which I think is really one of the ethos of Ava that she shows time and time again.
Definitely.
And this one, I would just say, when you were able to PA and kind of watch her work so early on in her kind of career, was there anything that kind of jumped out at you when you were working on her film Middle of Nowhere? I mean, she's kind of, filmmaker goals for a lot of people, and definitely inspiring with how much she looks to lift up those around her and acknowledge those that came before her. So I just wanted to know if there was anything that really inspired you or jumped out at you when you were working on her set.
Yes. I just love the way Ava would acknowledge every single person on the set by name, have a conversation with them, very kind of engaged with all the different crew and cast and just how they were doing and just what was needed to render a successful shoot. So I think that's one of the things she also has, expressed to me as a director when I was about to direct Jinn. She was just like being able to respect everyone on your crew and know their names and then not see, people in a lower position as insignificant. Like, that is really important and creates a team atmosphere. So I felt when I was on Middle of Nowhere, like I was part of a family. I remember my birthday was during the shoot, and like everyone saying happy birthday to me, including her. So it was just really like a communal thing, like just having, Bradford Young as a DP. He was like, like an older brother. Like, it was just really cool. Like I it's rare that you sometimes are able to have experiences where you feel like a part of a family on a film, and when you have it, you just always remember it. And so I think, just the insights, just seeing her kind of really go into, these parts of LA that were so personal to her and shoot scenes, in Compton and around that area was just beautiful to me. I was new to LA at that time. So it was like kind of being introduced to Black LA through Middle of Nowhere and through Ava's lens, which was really amazing. Watching her work with Brad on shots and framing and everything was also like a highlight as a PA, to be able to observe just how these people work and what you can take from that as a, aspiring director. So I definitely see that experience as like, maybe even more valuable than like a film school class. Like, if people can get in that type of atmosphere and just witness and see how a real independent film is made, like that, you can't get any better than that. So, yeah, it's amazing.
That's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of on the ground training.
Yeah, that's more important than sitting in class. In my opinion, I'm kind of bitter about film school, but
your loans, bitter about your
yeah,
student
the
loans.
loans, I'm in debt. Like, I mean, that's maybe like a separate conversation, but it's it's a lot, and I'm just, you struggle so much after film school. Because me and you go back, so it's a
Yes.
struggle, and you're just like, where, like, what happened after film school? So.
No, I completely understand. I've got my USC loans for my undergraduate, and, again, degrees with theater and whatnot. And I totally agree that for as much as they can teach you, and it is, sometimes really foundational instruction, that does not replace being on set. Period.
No, it does not.
For me, even as an actor, one of the most valuable times was when I first got to LA and I was still in college, was actually working as an extra. And there would be times where I'm just hanging out with the extras, but there were times where I would just take that opportunity to watch what everybody else was doing. And that's when you really see, where's the focus and how are people working together. And it really is valuable to get that kind of on-set training. And I love that you said that Ava was really made a point of knowing each person. And she's mentioned that in some of her interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really cool that she has kind of had that perspective from the beginning and really worked to maintain that no matter how basically big her shoots get. I mean,
Definitely.
Her crew is getting bigger and bigger.
Yes,
and
it
bigger.
is. I mean, Wrinkle in Time is just, but that's one thing she said, just that's how you maintain an environment where people feel like they want to be there. If someone is not, feels like there's no reason to be there, like, I don't know, it's just, there's a rapport, there's a dynamic that is not established when, there's a kind of elitist feel of a film. And I know, it's Hollywood, so people do what they want on their film shoot, but I just think I like to know who I'm working with. I want to know, like, what they're feeling and what's, needed and how it can be the best shoot it can be. So, I definitely got a sense of that working on her film, and hope, on my other films I can get better and better at just making sure all the departments are, in a good place.
Right, I completely agree. Excuse me. And I think that's something I've read for her as well, that before, part of her film directing training was being on set as a publicist. Mm-hmm. And actually watching how other directors handled themselves on set and with their crew, and that really helped inform her for, what she wanted to do and how she mm-hmm. wanted her film sets to be. So I think that's also really cool. Another, to kind of shift slightly, we've all seen Black Panther, and we know that the director Ryan Coogler is from Oakland, as you are as well, from the East Bay. And I just think it's really interesting how, in Black Panther, he had a shot where the young Killmonger, they live in Oakland, and mm-hmm. oftentimes in your writings, you will mention, or your poetry, you will mention the East Bay and growing up and the visuals and the community and the culture. And I was wondering if you would share a little bit your thoughts about what do you think it is about growing up in Oakland and the East Bay that is so impactful on young artists that it's something I feel a lot of you guys will want to refer back to in your work?
Definitely. I think coming from the Bay, and I have to say that with Black Panther coming out, I saw it in Oakland, and the sense of pride and love, it just made me feel so much better, I guess, about being from the Bay. I was already mm-hmm. really proud of being from there, but I didn't want to leave this last time because it was just a feeling that movie gave people that I've never experienced, probably since seeing Malcolm X or something.
Wow.
It was I saw Malcolm X at that same theater I saw Black Panther, and that feeling, it transcends to that time. And so I would say being from the Bay Area in Oakland is such a right atmosphere because you are surrounded with so many cultures, all different cultures and races and religions and just ways of being are just open and present for you in that area, especially in the East Bay, Oakland, Berkeley, Hayward, where I'm from. From a young age, I had classmates, you know, from Afghanistan and Russia and, you know, India and Kenya, like all this. It was a very diverse, inclusive place from a young age. And so I always felt inspired to learn about different people. And then there was a lot of a kind of social justice foundation of the Bay Area. We know that growing up, you know, the Black Panthers came from Oakland. We know that, you know, June Jordan was in Berkeley, that Angela Davis was, you know, all these things are just there for us as young kids, and like it's like our legacy. So when I saw Black Panther and in my own work, I just know that, like, you know, art is important. You have a purpose, and I think we feel a duty to like make personal art, but at the same time speak to like a larger social justice issue. Like that's what I see what happens. Like a lot of the Bay Area artists that I know and filmmakers, they are making work that is personal to them, but it's also speaking to issues that are going on globally that are around identity and, you know, all these things related to social justice and reproductive health, and like all, it's like so much that the Bay Area kind of equips you with, just from the historical foundation and then all of the kind of grassroots activism that's still happening there. People going out, there's still like free breakfast programs happening in Oakland right now, people feeding the homeless. Like it's just there in front of you. And my dad, you know, he was a part of that from the 60s on. He saw the Black Panthers and the Nation of Islam and all of Angela Davis, all of that is just a part of the lifeblood of the place. And so I think it's a great place to make art and to be from. And then also it's about kind of that grassroots, just you do it, you know, that's my foundation. It's like, I just did it. I didn't have a film history or mentor, someone to kind of like get me into it. I just knew I wanted to do it. And that's like the Bay Area makes you just really confident to just do what you want to do. So I don't know.
I love that. I love that. And, that was the sense that I got, and that's why I really wanted to mention it, because you start to see the connections. You're like, oh, okay. And I feel like you hear that when you find out someone is from the East Bay or from Oakland, because it's all so close. Even if you don't always live in Oakland, you're from Oakland. That's kind of the major city, and it's such a contrast in some ways to San Francisco, even though it's just a bridge kind of like away. But there's such a rich culture, as you're saying, with Berkeley being there, and so many, it's very family. There's so many families, but again, it's still in such close proximity to business and industry. It's a very rich place culturally in so many ways. So
definitely,
that's really great to see people draw from that and then kind of carry that with them.
Definitely.
You threw out a word there, mentor, that you didn't really have one kind of coming up. At this stage, as you've made more short films and preparing to premiere Jinn at South by Southwest, do you have a mentor now?
I do. Well, I kind of think I have more of like unofficial mentors. They're like people who I can talk to. I can, you know, if I see them, I can email them, and, you know, they provide me encouragement. I can ask them a question and they'll respond to me. And also just through, you know, listening to them and reading about them, like I learn a lot. So now, you know, I've had to learn a lot on my own, just like kind of trial and error, which is, I think, a lot of kind of filmmakers of color and stuff just have to do, which, you know, that's just kind of the way it is. But like people like Gina Prince Bythewood, who is like one of my favorite directors, has made, you know, herself available, you know, for me to ask questions. When I was going into directing Jinn, I used to write a lot about film, so I wrote a lot about her film Beyond the Lights, and, you know, she knows Love and Basketball is like one of my favorite movies. So, yeah, she's just been great, and just encouragement and advice. And I know people are really busy, like especially people who are higher up and have, so much to do. So I don't try to just constantly ask people questions, but it does help when you can reach out, for people like Gina Prince Spicewood and then also Ava DuVernay when they have time to let me know, just give me some advice. When I was going into directing Jinn, it was really helpful to have, women of color directors, really reach out. And, even when I had setbacks, I've received calls from these people and they've encouraged me to keep going. So, it really feels good because sometimes you feel like you really don't know what you're doing. And I think that's a part of it. And sometimes there's no one to ask because there's just not. So you just make a decision and live with whatever comes of it. But I have had great just advice and conversations with people in this industry who have helped me forward. People in organizations like Film Independent, came and was very supportive, and just different organizations and filmmakers. So it's just like a variety. I can't say one person, but they're, I look up to them and they've helped a lot.
That is so wonderful. And I have so many other questions, but I feel like it comes up a lot, the whole idea of I need to have a coffee date and I need a mentor and this and that. But I think what your kind of journey exemplifies, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but my grandmother, my Jamaican grandmother, used to always have a saying, and she always acted like it was in the Bible, but I don't think it's an actual verse. She used to always say, God helps those who help themselves. Mm-hmm. And I feel like your journey is a good example because I don't feel like it ever works when you just reach out to people, but you aren't kind of halfway there. I think what lends some of these, more accomplished and celebrated filmmakers to, make time for you, and please, again, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you put in the work prior to really kind of reaching out or kind of needing that advice, and I think that that's what people really respond to. Correct me if I'm wrong, or feel free to kind of say something totally different, but I feel like the fact that you had not so much been to film school, but just been making films. You had been studying. You had been figuring out your craft and doing as much as you can as you on your own, so that and also like you're saying, you were already writing film criticism or reviews, so you had already done so much on your own to say, I'm a part of this community. Definitely. And I think that opens people up to wanting to help you as opposed to, I don't know anything, please someone help me.
Yes, that is a really great point. And I think that's one of the things that Ava has addressed in hockey is you have to put the work in. You cannot expect for, just to break in, I meet people and they're like, yeah, I just moved here to Hollywood and I'm just gonna, network and everything's gonna be great. That's not really real. For a lot of people that we see in, higher, like Issa Rae, people that, are in the higher position, they put a lot of work in to get there.
Right.
And I saw it. You have to put that work, and then that work is recognized, and then you might reach out to someone and kind of be a part of their group or a part of what they're doing. Or it's kind of like a give and take. You can't just be asking for stuff, you have to give something too. What are you contributing to what we have here? So I always felt like in my, when I first met Ava and Tulane, when they were flyering for I Will Follow, I'm going to take some flyers and I'm going to spread the word. How can I just write about this movie and just, get it out to these people? So, how can I contribute and not just be someone who's just asking for things, and just also put in the work to so people can know that that's I've been doing this since 2005, 2006. I've been really grinding, trying to get to this place. I didn't just pop up and expect things. So I think it's a complex thing, because at one point you want to have people help you, and everyone wants to have a mentor and wants kind of that treatment, but it's kind of it can't just be that way. You have to put the work in and kind of grind to get where you want to be. So.
Amen. I mean, it's the truth. It's the same for actors. I mean, I think every artist, every discipline, whether it's writing or acting or dance, people will help you. But even as I was kind of saying, they only have so much time.
Yes.
So you got to meet them somewhere.
Yeah, you got to kind of, meet people halfway and just acknowledge that this is a really hard business. Like, for me, I've been doing this like for so long trying to get to this point, but it's still just kind of the beginning for me in a way, because I'm just now, in terms of getting an agent and really being, acknowledged in the way that, I want to for so many years. So it's not easy at all. And I just think people should have an understanding of that when they embark on. I didn't know. When I started making films, I didn't know how hard it was going to be because, like I said, I didn't have anyone around me who made films. I'm from the Bay, like, just doing it on my own. But I didn't know, like, what was in store as, like, a Black woman making movies,
Right. And basically, there's no overnight successes, no matter how much it seems like that. There really is no such thing. Even when there's like nepotism in the industry, I feel like those children still have to work and deliver on set. Like, you still have to be able to do it. They might open it up for a meeting or an agent, but as I tell my friends all the time, like, even just as an actor, it's like the agent gets 10%. You still have to do 90% of the work. It is not, and it's always I don't want to say it's an ever moving target, but one time I had an acting class, a director, Richard Lawson, he was like, it's a marathon. It is not a sprint to the finish. Yeah. This industry is a marathon, and you have to learn how to basically pace yourself, and you've got to know that there's going to be spurts, and then there's going to be slower times, and that's just a part of it. And if it's something you really want to do, you're going to have to be in it for the long haul.
Definitely.
Okay, one of the other, there's so many things. Okay, one thing, when you were at Cal Arts, you have a dual degree in, is it screenwriting or creative writing?
It's creative writing. It was creative writing and directing, yeah.
Since you kind of wear both hats, can you share a little bit of your process? Like, how do you kind of go back and forth, or divide your time, or how easy or hard is it for you to decide, okay, today I'm going to write? Do you write every day, or do you kind of separate the two, or do you kind of just get the ideas flowing and then sort it out later? Do you mind sharing a little bit of how you organize your day in order to accomplish both to the degree that you want?
Do you mean when I was in film school or just currently?
Currently.
Okay. Yeah, so right now it's really crazy for me with the festival prep, so it's kind of like I'm all over the place. But usually when I am kind of in a creative mode, I love writing. Writing is like something that is my first love, and it's very important to my process to write out everything. Whenever I have an idea for a movie, it takes numerous forms in terms of writing. I might write a short story. First, I might write poems. I might just write little, taglines or synopses. And that is just me kind of planting seeds for what's to come. And then after that, I start to kind of go into like, I want to make this more expansive, so I'm going to like write a full-on treatment, a full-on outline that's going to like hit every single plot point, every single element of the story before I write a script. But basically all those different forms of writing come before writing a script, because I don't just go into a script writing software with an idea, because that's the way you get lost. You get lost when you're just, I'm just going to write a script. Like, I need to fully develop something, a character, a story, before even going that route. So I use all those different writing forms in order to get to a script. And then I use a lot of photography, images. Like, I kind of just get all these images together, put them in a folder, and start to like pre-visualize what, I'm thinking. You know, sometimes I'll use audio. Sometimes I'll like interview my mom or my dad or someone. Yeah, it's just like a lot of kind of this work I do to kind of create story, listening to how people talk in their different dialect or accent, or just the way people don't say anything in certain situations, to stay silent about things that they really want to say. All those things, I think, when I'm trying to conceive of work, come into creating it. Yeah, that's like probably the most important part of my process when it comes to like story development and how I want to move forward.
And then, so by laying that kind of foundation, it sounds like when it comes time to directing, you have a very clear vision of who these characters are, what the arcs of the stories are in terms of the characters and their emotional journey, and then it seems like it goes to more just matching the visual aesthetic to what you've already written.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely, there's so much development that happens, you know, in that writing stage, that in my character, like characters are so important to me. Like I have to know my characters inside and out. And once I feel like I've known that, when it comes to directing the movie, I make my choices based on my character's motivations, and I know exactly what my character will do at any given moment, any given scene, for me to be able to talk to my actors. And I do think that going to CalArts and being in that directing program that's one thing I would say for that film school, made me a better director, because we were given a lot of theater instruction. We were kind of asked to act. We were acting in different plays and different scenes, and to understand how to work with actors and how to know like what an actor wants and what a character wants, and motivations, and just, you know, the purpose of a scene and what you're trying to say. Like all those things were really well covered in the curriculum of CalArts directing program. I really can say that that's one thing that I would recommend, you know, if someone asks me about that program.
No, okay, that's great. That's really valuable advice, I think, for people who are wondering kind of like, how do you get started? Or, you know, what's one way? I think each person probably has to find different ways. But that's a really great, I think, a way of emphasizing how important it is. It's almost like acting as well, where you do all this preparation so that once you get on set, you can kind of let it go and be open to being present and to hearing what the director wants, and kind of seeing what happens with the other actor, because you've done all the work prior. And I could see how that really plays as much of a big role in your process. So I know we're kind of running out of time, but there's like 3 main questions I still want to talk about. One of them is, in your article that you wrote for Vice, you mentioned how valuable working with Bruce Francis Cole, your director of photography, was in getting the shots you needed without sacrificing the emotion and the life of the story and the characters, because, you know, you guys were on, like, quote-unquote, a micro budget, so you didn't have as many days to shoot a certain amount of pages. You had to keep it moving. So can you tell me a little bit about how that collaboration worked and how it came to be?
Yeah, so Bruce is amazing, first of all. I came to him through actually social media, which is great.
Really?
You know, Instagram. Instagram is a great showcase for DPs. Yeah, I was on his Instagram, and he posts some great, beautiful stills from just, you know, either he's just shooting out as a photographer or from shoots. And I was like, this guy is really talented. And that was before I knew I was going to work with him at first. I had another DP attached to this film who was great. He was from Dear White People, but our scheduling didn't work out. And so I looked for a new DP. And Bruce, I just knew from Instagram, also from other filmmakers I know who he shot their films. And I watched like a trailer from their film that he shot, and I was like, okay, like he's really great. And we had a call, And, he read the script. He loved it. He came with ideas. He's just a really positive person to work with. And he knows his stuff. He knows about composition. He knows about fine art because he studied paintings, and he knows about how in a frame, mise en scene and like all these elements that need to be there in order to render a great image. And yeah, he knows how to work within a low budget scenario where you don't have a lot of time and you don't have a lot of money, but you need to get the best coverage you can. And he knows how to do that. I have to work with people who know how to do that, because if you don't, you just end up not getting what you need in the given day. So he was, he just brought so much. We talked about a lot of films, about our influences. And I think for me, I love working with, Black DPs. I love working with women DPs. I love to work with people who know this world that I'm trying to create and know how to, make Black skin look beautiful and whatever. Like, I just think it's great. And it's a tradition. There's not a lot of Black DPs who get a lot of attention. And I think, we're out there working. Why not? So this film, whenever people watch this film and when you see it, it is beautiful. And when the cinematography is just beautiful, people always talk about it. So I really do hope that this is a big deal for Bruce in his career, and it helps him to get better, get more jobs, because he did great work. And it was really good working with him. And I think because we're compatible, because like he's a Scorpio and I'm a Cancer. We're like water signs. I don't know, but it's
I love that we went to astrology.
It's like, talking to like your brother or talking to your friend. I don't know.
I was going to say, I feel like it's important for the director and the DP to have that relationship in almost like a shorthand where you guys just understand one another. And it sounds like that's what you had with him. That's so cool.
We had a shorthand. It was Instagram where I was like, this guy really has an eye. I look for people with an eye who, you see just from a picture and how they frame the image, like, what they can do. And he did it. And so I feel blessed to have someone there who, because, when you're working low budget, sometimes, you don't want to sacrifice. You're a DP. You want to have the best DP. You want to have the best production designer, the best costumer, the best sound, because those are the things that will show if something, is not right. So.
I want to use that to segue into your casting. I feel like you had an incredible caliber of actors cast in this film. Your lead actress, Zoe Renee, she's on the quad. Simone Missick, who plays Misty Cage. Misty Knight on Luke Cage, plays her mother. And I could go on and on down the list. So can you talk to me about what was the process of, did you work with a particular casting director, and what was the process to be able to get so many kind of already working Black actors to be able to work on this project? And then part two of that question is, what do you feel like you look for most in an actor, in their performance, whether it's during the casting process that makes you say, yes, I want to choose them and work with them, and or on set to get your story, completed?
What do I look for?
Yeah, I mean, first, like, how was the casting process? Did you work with a particular casting director to be able to bring in that caliber, or?
It's interesting because that was actually one of the hardest parts of making this film was casting. When you have, your low budget movie and you don't have a lot of money to kind of get like A-list casting director or talent, whatever. It's hard. This movie has a lot of actors in it. I know, you're on set a few days, so I think you saw there's a lot of people in the movie. And so, we did it mostly through ourselves. Yeah, we didn't really have a casting director, really. It was me putting out fillers, and then, we had auditions. when it came, I knew that for the heart of the film, definitely for Zoe, for Summer's character, like I wasn't gonna budge about what I wanted and what kind of actor I wanted for that. Someone who could be so multifaceted and have so many different sides to them and still be able to be fun and laugh and flirt, whatever. So that's what I wanted. And so we saw so many girls for that role. We had self-tapes, and when I came across Zoe's tape, I was just blown away, and I just couldn't stop watching it. And so I think when you can't stop watching someone, I think that's a sign that, you know, you should bring them in and talk to them and see how they perform in the audition space. So that's what we did. And that, you know, it just turned out that her performance is really beautiful and magical. People have seen the film, have really raved about it. For Simone, actually, I met her through her husband, Dorian Missick, who's an actor. And yeah, he was interested in the script. He loved the script. And so we had him come on board to play Summer's father. And then he was like, you know, I could pass this script to my wife. And I was like, really? This nice? Hey. Like, yes. Hey. I was so excited because I just watched Luke Cage. And I was like, I would love to have her. And then she loved it. We talked a lot about the character of Jay because it's a very complex character. And you could hit some wrong notes on it if it wasn't done correctly. So we had some lengthy conversations about the character and what she represented and kind of what she was what was kind of leading her to like seek out Islam. And Simone is just a really wonderful presence. And, you know, she also has that multifaceted quality of like a very sincere, deep kind of emotional quality, but also she's so fun and beautiful and like all these things that you just kind of want in an actress. So her and Zoe paired up so well as a mother and daughter. Just the way they look and also just their energy together is just great for that pairing. So yeah, that's kind of like what went into that. It was really, like I said, it was hard because it's kind of an ensemble film in a way. There's a lot of actors and we didn't have a lot of money, and it's sometimes hard to get through agents when you don't have the money to kind of give to their actors. So it's hard. I don't even really know. I think that's one thing that if you can just kind of build relationships with the actor, I think that will help you in the end to get them in your movie, is kind of building one-on-one with them and then kind of going forward. But the guy in my film who plays the love interest, his name is Kelvin Harrison Jr. I met him because he was in my thesis film that I shot in New Orleans about mermaids.
I just rewatched it this morning, and I saw it and I thought, oh my God, I didn't even realize it during Jinn. It wasn't until I was watching it today where I was like, hey, that's the guy. And now, I mean, he's about to blow up as well.
Yes,
because he's in Monsters and Men, and he was in Mudbound and all these other things. So I thought that was really cool to realize that was an actor you had worked with years prior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's him. And that's just an example of, like, you know, just being out there, knowing people and seeing that I think, you know, he's got a very, like, bright future. Like, he's a very talented actor, and I love working with him. And he continually books roles. Like, every week he's in something. And I think that's just a testament to his work ethic and his talent, which, you know, he had 2 movies. He had, I think, 3 movies at Sundance, and many more coming, you know, so.
Definitely. That was really cool. So one thing that, you know, really kind of binds you and I together is music. Ever since we met shooting Two Bodies, we, you know, have similar tastes. We've seen several concerts together, Leon LaHavas, and I think did we see Laura Mbula together?
Yes, we saw Laura Mbula, Leon LaHavas.
So good. Yes. And we saw Alice Smith together.
Yes, we saw Alice Smith together too.
And although I don't think we've seen her together, I know we would both happily go see Valerie June together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that music is just, a big part of something that you enjoy. And then you were able to participate in the Sundance Institute Sound and Music Design Lab at Skywalker Ranch. And so kind of have a twofold question. Like, how does music play a role in your creative process? And then if you could tell me about your experience at the design lab, and was there kind of like a before and after moment in the sense that how you looked at music informing your work or the film before you went to the lab and then afterwards?
Yeah, I always use music in my writing process when I come up with story ideas and when I write scripts. So I create a playlist. I create a playlist with different songs that represent either a character's emotions or represent a character or theme in my film. So right now I have 2 playlists open for 2 scripts that I'm developing. And it's really important for me to have that music because I'm writing, I'm like that music is kind of like funneling through me into the character and into the story. I listen to film scores a lot. I was listening to the score from Moonlight kind of religiously during
so good
during Jinn's process because I was like so interested in kind of like especially how that score had a lot to do with water and like movement through the character of that was in that film. Like it just gave me a lot of like emotional cues for writing Jinn. So, music is really, really important to me. And, I wanted to be a singer actually growing up and I still love singing.
Did you really?
I really did. Yeah. That was like, I still like see my second life, like as being like a singer and dancer. And so I think that's why every film I do, like there's something about dancing or some music thing that I have. Like I just have this thing. So when I was able to go to Sundance for that lab, I was like, this is like a full circle moment because, I know music. I'm not like thinking that people don't listen to music. Everyone loves music, but the way that it informs my process, like I talk to some people who they can't have music on when they write. They can't have whatever. I have to have it on. I need to have that sound in my body when I write certain things. And I also love quiet. Like I can write when there's no music too, but it's like I need that balance. So when I was able to go to the lab, I was paired with a composer named Jessie Nelson, a woman composer. And we just made, we were able to compose like 2 cues for the film there with the live orchestra and all the instruments that I kind of wanted and how she got to be able to conduct. And it was just an amazing experience. It really was to be able to take that love of music in my process and go to Skywalker Ranch and be in a place where, epic scores are created for movies. Like I just, it was like nothing I've ever experienced. To, I after that I still had so much emotion inside of me just from listening to the music that was created there. Every time I listen to it, it really stirs like something in me. And the music, those music that we created, like we were able to kind of continue with that. And I brought on that composer who I worked with in the lab, and she served as the composer for the film. And the music, this is a musical journey as well. Jinn is definitely informed a lot by music. You'll see, the character Summer, and I think that was a lot about just creating a character who is an artist in a sense. She's a dancer, and so music is so important to who she is. So that's what we tried to tell a story through the music choices, both through the score and through the original source music that we got. We had a great music supervisor, and we got some great, we got like a Miguel song in there and like some other really cool things. So yeah, like it's it's so much a part of my process as a writer of music. So being able to be in the lab was like a dream come true, and then be paired with a composer who gets your movie and can, make the necessary music for it is just amazing. So
that is fantastic. I feel like a recurring theme, at least for you, and I feel like a lot of artists would say this, is that it's really about finding the right people to collaborate with.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I think, whether it's the long hours on set or just the kind of emotional journey that is filmmaking, I think more and more you realize whatever role you play, you really want it to be with people that you love to be around and that understand your vision. Otherwise, it's only going to make it more difficult to kind of achieve the vision. Okay, I've got two last questions. One of them is inspiration. Basically, what, just, kind of off the top of your head, what are some things that inspire you? And then what do you do when you feel like you aren't inspired? Like, where do you go to seek it or find it?
Some things that inspire me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting because, sometimes I go through periods where I do feel like I'm uninspired. But I will definitely say things that inspire me, other art. When I see some other art that is, somebody's art that it just does something to my soul, like, I will be inspired. So, for example, Black Panther. Right. I'm inspired. Definitely. It had me because, I have this open-based story that I've been marinating in my soul for so long. And I'm like, I need to tell my story. And that's because, I go see this movie and it just brings out these emotions, and then I'm inspired. So it's definitely other people's art. It's, not just movies, but it's paintings, going to an art exhibit and just, looking at paintings and, colors and textures and all that. Music, like I just said, when I discover a song or an album that I didn't know about, that is the biggest joy. I remember when I discovered Leanne LaHavis, I was just in love with her music, and it really helped me to, create. And then, can you repeat the second part of the question again?
Oh, I guess that was kind of it. It was a combination of what inspires you, and then if you feel like you aren't feeling the inspiration, is there something you do to go seek it out? Like, some people might go to a particular place, or but it sounds like maybe you might put on music that always will make you feel a certain way, or put on a particular film that kind of opens you up in a way.
Yeah, it's the film. Yeah, it's like dancing. Dancing is a big part of my life. I love to dance. And so I used to go to dance class really regularly, but I kind of got just out of it and just so consumed with film stuff. But I love dancing. I love movement. I love moving around. And so, yeah, I can dance. It's just go out and dance. I don't have to drink. I don't have to do anything. All I need is some good music, and just be able to dance. And that's something that I think is important, to have this bodily, physical exercise, physical movement. I think for me, sometimes I get so bogged down in just typing and writing and whatever, I'll forget that I need to go outside and just walk. And in the Bay, it's so beautiful. LA is beautiful. There's so much you can just walk around and take a hike and just turn your phone off. So those things help me. Physical movement and exercise and dancing helps me to get out of being either depressed or uninspired or whatever mentally is going on.
I think that's a great segue to, I guess, my final question that will kind of wrap up. I feel like self-care is like the buzzword right now, and that can look very different for some people. And I just think I was going to ask you, like, what does self-care look like for you? How do you balance filmmaking and just like being an adult, personal time? And I think particularly as you prepare for like this really kind of big film festival on the premiere of your first feature that has gotten a lot of attention. It's a lot. It's a lot going on. So what are if you don't mind sharing, what are some things that for you just help bring you back to a place of peace and feeling grounded? It sounds like movement and dance, but are there any other particular like rituals that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I like to return to, like I said, I'm a writer. So if that's how I process life, is through writing about things. Make sense of things that just seem too sad or profound or anything to kind of comprehend emotionally. So I'll try to return to my journal or just to some pad of paper to kind of like, lately I've been really getting back into poetry, which is like something that was my start. It was like writing poems, and now I write a lot more poems because that's how I can, like, in terms of self-care, just ground myself with whatever internally that I'm going through or that I'm trying to understand. So I will say that going back to like just writing on a piece of paper, thoughts, free form, poetry, whatever, images, is a part of the self-care, along with movement and just trying to get out of a room. Because I think like when you're just sitting there, and your mind can be an enemy, your mind can go into all these different zones and places that are not healthy because you're worrying about, oh, what are they going to think about this? And what if they don't like this? Like, there's nothing you can do about that. So all you can do is just do your best and just keep living in the moment. So yeah, that's really what I do is I write and I try to move. Singing, like I said, I love singing, so I'll just start putting on my favorite album and singing along to it. Family, I love my family. Sometimes I think as creatives, we can get like, kind of just in our own zone. For me, because I don't have, I'm not married and I don't have children and I don't have whatever. Sometimes it's like a very lonely existence. So I want to make sure that I, talk to my mom, talk to my sisters, talk to my nieces. I have a 1-year-old niece and a 3-year-old niece that my brother's daughters. And so, yeah, just try to be, talk to my dad, be with my family, just be around people who just know me for me.
Right, not just this Nijla, the film director, who's
just
doing
like,
these
I can
things.
Just see my little weird self and, people like you who just know. Yeah, I think it's very important to like be around people who just know you for who you are, because you could just have real conversations and not, every day you have to put on like a front or put on a performance for people, and sometimes
like
you
your
don't
brand and yeah, I love that. It's like now it's like someone posted about how when people see her, they're like, oh, what are you auditioning for? And what's going on with this? And what's going on with that? And it's not that you don't want to be seen as an artist, but sometimes you just want to be seen.
Yeah, and, definitely.
At least that's how I feel sometimes. Like, well, or sometimes on the flip side, I'll see people and it's all about like me as a mom and kids. And sometimes when I was a Lyft driver, one of my favorite things was that like they just saw me as a person. And so I didn't have to talk about like my children, or I didn't even have to like, if I didn't tell them I was an actor, like they didn't know, I could talk about singing or dancing or something totally different. And they would be, so, if they were interested and we were having a conversation, then they were interested and we were having a conversation. And that can be really liberating. And I think that's a wonderful point to make, that particularly if you're an artist, and especially if you're here in LA or a major city where it's something that's talked about all the time, from in the meetings to at the gas station to, anywhere you go, that it's really important to surround yourself with people that know you and love you and see you just as you are, so that you're not really seeking that validation outside of your quote-unquote accomplishments.
Definitely. Yeah, it's really important to have just have a tribe, or like I think Ava talked about that too, like having your tribe and having just people who recognize you as a person and care about you. And I don't know, that's just important, because there's a lot of people who you'll come in contact with who, you know, are just interested in you based on what they see on social media. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's the world we live in. But on the other side, you want to have some like just the relationships that are meaningful and that bring you some kind of joy.
Well, on that note, Nijla, well, our relationship is meaningful to me.
Yes, it's so meaningful. Thank you for this. This is like one of the best interviews I've ever done.
Good luck with the rest of your week. And, you know, let me know next time you're in LA. We can take a hike, get some fresh air, go dancing, something. I'd love to see you in person, give you a big hug, and all that good stuff. But I know you've got a lot coming up, a lot of exciting things. So I'll just kind of stay on the gram and hopefully see images of your time in Austin, which is a great city. I don't know if you've been there before.
No, I have not been there before.
Oh, yay. I think you're going to love it, and I hope the weather is really nice and for you guys. And I'm just so proud of you, and it's really a beautiful thing when you see your friends who are, like you're saying, putting in the work and working hard, just keep moving forward towards their goals. So I love you, Nijla. Thank you so much for your time, and I will talk to you soon.
Definitely. Right, thank you so much. Bye.
Yay. Bye. Yay. Well, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Nijla. I apologize for the copious amounts of nervous giggling I was unable to control my first go-round. I hope that our talk leaves you feeling a little more inspired or motivated to continue on your own artistic journey. Nijla can be found on social media at Nijla1, spelled out Nijla, the number 1, on Twitter and on Instagram. I'll leave links to her website and also to her short film Dream that is available for streaming on Issa Rae's YouTube channel in the description box. You can also find me on the gram under my name, Melissa K. Anderson, and on Twitter under @MelissaK Says. I also co-host a weekly podcast with my husband called Woke with Kids. It's our irreverent take on the Trump administration, news, and entertainment, all while navigating our roles as artsy-fartsy parents of 2 young black boys. If you're so woke you don't know if you should laugh or cry, check us out at Woke with Kids. Thank you again for listening to Off the Page with Melissa K. Well, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Nijla. I apologize for the copious amounts of nervous